I think we'll make a start because we are now chorus, I believe, because we've got 5 members. Is that right, Vicky?
Correct.
Yeah. So welcome everybody to the meeting of the Rutland Countryside Access Forum. The first item on the agenda is, well, the first thing I want to say is, if you want to say anything, can you put your virtual? Well, Rosemary will have to put her virtual hand up because I can't see Rosemary at all.
Right.
So. Can you put your virtual hand up now, Rosemary, to see if it works?
No, I've done something which has it thinks I've still got to join, and
well, you're definitely here.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Well, if you can't, then you'll have to just shout up.
Stagger on.
Yeah. All right. Okay. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Vicky, have you got any apologies for absence? Oh, here's Stuart. That's good.
Oh, Stuart.
Yes, I do. I've got apologies from Roger Linford, Tommy Plummer, and Harry Baines.
And I've got one. What about Paul Dadford?
Yes, sorry, that was a late one, wasn't it? Yes, we have posted Paul Dadford.
Okay. Has anyone else got any other apologies? Doesn't look like it. Welcome, Stuart.
Oh.
Sorry, I was a little bit late. I'm in the office today and nothing works.
Good. We're glad you're here because you're like the main event.
Yeah, between myself and John, I think
that's it. Yes, a double act.
Yep.
Right. Item 2 is minutes of previous meeting. They have been circulated. Has anyone got any comments, or are we happy to accept those as the true record of the meeting that took place on the 16th of June?
I was absent, so I can't say anything.
Miranda, you weren't there either, Miranda, were you, or were you? I can't remember.
Yes, I was there.
Were you? Right, okay. So do we need a proposer and a seconder?
I'll propose.
Yep.
I was there, so I'll second. This is
Okay.
Rosemary.
Yep. Okay.
Right.
All in favour? Yes, can't see anyone against. So right, the minutes are approved. Do I have to sign those, Vicky, at some stage, or is that just taken as read?
No, just take them as read.
No.
Okay. Right, item 3, Stuart, is your thing. Legal orders, proposed changes to public rights of way, and it's on pages 11 to 62 of the.
Thank you, Andrew. If you'll just give me a second to actually find a copy of that report.
I've got it in front of me, but I don't suppose it helps.
Thanks for the help. Sent items. Yeah, okay. Okay, I've no intention of reading the whole of the report. So I would hope members have a chance to at least skim through it in preparation for the meeting. If we look first at the public path orders we currently have on the books. The first one is the preliminary inquiries made for the diversion of D79 at Whissendine. We have now received a full application for that diversion. This is an incoming owner of the farm at Whissendine Lodge, seeking to divert the path away from the houses and the farm itself. This is the application is being made in to benefit the landowner. Obviously, our policy being that we wouldn't accept it without any public benefit. The preliminary discussions have gone fine. We're going to get both an increased width and a reduction in the number of structures. If members are interested, I can forward the application form to everybody for comment. I'm not sure whether anyone feels the need to comment as an individual, or whether you'd like to comment on the forum would like to comment as a body.
Does anyone want to see the actual application? That's the question.
Please.
Councillor Jones.
Can we see it on screen, Stuart? Can we see where the rerouted footpath is going to run?
In theory, yes. I'm
Okay.
not familiar with Zoom, so I'm not sure how to share my screen on Zoom.
Okay. Right.
There should be at the
Bottom
bottom,
middle.
you should see share screen. It might well be in green for you
I
as
do
well.
see
It's
so,
green for
okay.
me. Yep.
And I have the permissions to do it.
Yes, it should work for you.
Yeah.
Okay, if everyone bears with me for 1 second, I'll bring up the application.
Okay. Well, while you're doing that, let's welcome John, who's just joined us.
I think I'm here.
Yes,
can
you are.
hear
You're
me?
you're
Yeah,
definitely
that's
here
it.
in
Ah.
visual and in audio.
And the sound's working. Good.
It's good to see you looking hale and hearty, John.
Okay. Right.
Okay, plan 1. Here we go.
Oh.
Okay, this is, yeah. I will show you the overview here, which is probably the easiest one. Share. Okay, can everybody see
There
that?
we go. Yeah.
Perfect.
The magenta coloured line is the existing route of the footpath. The blue and red sections are the proposed diversion. It's quite a significant diversion. As you can see, the primary purpose is to move it away from the house. We have got, I've got some issues in general with this sort of diversion because it's moving it from a crossfield to a field edge, which in principle is fine, but this is all pasture. It's all grazing land, some of which is used by cattle though, so the landowners just have concerns about conflict between the livestock and the public. They do want to fence it in the full length. Generally we have some issues with this, and I've made the applicant aware of that. The reason I have issues with this is that land that had previously grazed will no longer be grazed, and we'll have to send a mower or a strimmer down every year. I've also, in the past, we have issues with the hedges, because when you fenced in against a hedge, obviously that hedge then grows each year and requires cutting back far more regularly than it would otherwise, because it's next to the footpath and begins to overhang the footpath. Because of that, I've made the landowner very clear that the width of the footpath will need to be sufficient for him to be able to take a tractor and flail down there and actually maintain that hedge. I've forgotten what we've agreed. I think we're talking about something like a 3 or 4 metre width of this footpath. It's sufficient. I've been assured it's sufficient for them to be able to get their mechanical, whatever they're using to cut the hedge, the tractor and the flail, and cut it by mechanical means. There's the red section there. There's been a bit of discussion on this, and they are still open to some negotiation on this. This is taking it past the pond. There's a small balancing pond there, and we need to put a culvert in there. That's something that we will need to provide them with the specification for, and potentially even take a small commuted sum for future maintenance, because this is a structure, a new structure that we're going to have to take on responsibility to maintain, which in general we don't like. It's just an additional cost to the council, which is why I would want to see us covered for the foreseeable.
So where's that then, John? Where is the
This is, oh sorry, do you want me to put it in? Okay, you see the northern, the road just at the very north, top right corner of the map?
Yeah.
That is the Whistendine to Melton Road.
Right.
The back road, I forgot what the road's called. Bear with me one second.
It's probably called Melton Road.
That's the Whistendine to Melton Road, and that's opposite
Yes.
the old lay-by.
Yes, that's right. In fact, hold on. Yes, I should point out what they're going to offer as well is, you've got some, I think you've got some land near there, William, haven't you?
Well, we did have, because we lived at Wistonthorpe, which is the neighbouring property.
Yes, on the other side of the road. There's a path on the other side of that road there, but it's sort of just set it out from the one field, I think, in from the road. They've offered as well to create a small new footpath linking the lay-by to that existing footpath as part of this deal. This is part of their meeting the public benefit test. And that will be quite useful, because that footpath E8 that goes from heads west out of, is it west? Yes, west out of Whistendine. It's not particularly well used one, because it's pretty sort of linear route, not so good for a dog walk, as most people like to make a short circular. This will open up far more options for sort of circular routes, this little link. And potentially as well, people will be able to drive out, park in the lay-by and take take the dogs out and join that footpath. So that, this is why on balance, I'm generally relatively happy with this.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, it's purely it is in the landowner's interests.
So that we have to then cut it, do we? If it's not grazed, is it not the landowner's
Yes.
responsibility? No.
No. The county council becomes responsible for the surface. Well, we always are responsible for the surface of the highway.
But under cross compliance, if they have to keep the footpath open, don't they?
Yes, and if they planted a crop, but if it's naturally occurring vegetation, that's ours to cut.
Right.
Yeah, if it's a planted crop, yes, it would be theirs to remove.
Right, now Stuart,
Yep.
if you don't mind, I don't think this is particularly acceptable, because they could walk up the drive.
Yep.
They could follow just before you get to the bungalow on that right angle bend. They could follow one hedge line up there, and they could then take a direct line from where those two hedges meet across to where is it a mauve and the blue line nearly touch.
Yeah.
And I think that would be acceptable, and then there'd be no cost to the council. Can you understand that, Stuart?
Sorry, William, just to try and pin down your issue here. Is it the fact that there's potentially an additional maintenance liability, i.e. cutting of the path, that you have an issue with?
I think it is really, because it's just going to be far too expensive unless they're going to have an obligation to maintain it themselves. And
yeah,
and you know, I can understand moving the footpath away from the farm buildings for security and actually the safety of the people walking. But, you know, a small diversion like that, I think would be acceptable.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying, William, is that there's quite a small oblong field right in the centre of the map.
Yes.
Instead of it going on the bottom side of that, round two sides, you want it to go on the top, straight on, and then back down the other side.
It could come actually diagonally across that field.
Diagonally across rather than round the hedge.
Yeah, don't follow the hedge. You know, that footpath goes diagonally across the big field, which goes down to the brook. You can then come across in a similar line across to a hedge that then runs down to the lake by the farm track. You got it?
Yeah.
I accept certainly with that, the sort of the west, the southern and westernmost section, where it really does sort of go around it, where it currently crosses diagonally across the field, and they're proposing to direct runners. Yeah, I'm less convinced by the necessity of that. But as I say, this ultimately, there were two aims of this proposal. One, to move it away from the houses. The second, to keep it away from livestock. But I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry.
John.
Sorry, Stuart. Sorry to interrupt your flow.
No, go.
Am I right in thinking, though, there's no stars at all around any of along this path at all?
No, there's the existing. There's quite a few styles.
So is that something that we could,
on the new one?
Yeah, is that something that we could ask him if we give anything, that we have kissing gates in there?
No, the proposed diversion route will be free of any structures.
Right, okay.
That's part of the point, because it's all fenced in. There is no requirement for any structures.
And what's this extra infrastructure you've got to put in for this balancing pond? Culvert, you said.
It's a culvert at the point where the red line joins the magenta coloured line. Basically, bridge/culvert. I personally prefer a culvert because they require much less maintenance over the years. Yeah. The little sort of U shape around the pond there, that's to avoid the balancing pond and to avoid a telegraph pole. But what I was slightly concerned about there, and I need to, because I've only looked at this route in the summer, I need to go back and have a look in the next couple of months, because the land slopes down to where that pond is, and what I want to check is the state of the ground in winter. to determine whether we would need to, whether he would need to put in some sort of boardwalk or otherwise improve the drainage in that area. If it's good underfoot in winter, fine, no problem. I wouldn't have an issue with it. Again, it's just making sure that we don't take on any additional problems, liabilities.
I mean, I see the point about it not in trying to get out of the way of the livestock, but if you're coming in where the purple line goes off the sort of bottom left-hand corner there, and there's livestock in that field, aren't you just saying, well, it's all right to walk through the livestock in that field, but not this one?
Well, yeah, don't get me wrong. Landowners generally would always prefer to separate, well, in my experience, the public from livestock, full stop, no exceptions. I don't have a problem with that in principle. And I think most walkers would prefer that as well, not all. It's subjective. Again, my issue is that the problems that generally can occur with moving crossfield paths to field edge, which is the maintenance of the surface, cutting, and or if it becomes waterlogged, and the hedge encroaching. Yeah.
So well, I think you're saying, Stuart, that you've got to go back and look anyway to see if it's suitable during the winter. So
near the pond, yes.
You can't. We can't make a decision now.
Then. Well, no. Public path orders are dealt with in chronological order, the order of receipt, and we still have a couple I still have a couple that need to be processed, made, etc., published before we even get to this one.
Right.
I've explained to the agent that submitted this that that's the situation, but also that the sooner they get it in, the less risk there is of another application being submitted ahead of theirs and therefore taking priority in the queue.
So does this forum then decide, or is it you that decides, Stuart? I'm a bit confused.
Neither. The director. Scheme of delegation has delegated power to the director for places to make this decision.
Right. So even if we were to defer this to the next meeting, the decision could be made in between time.
Plenty of time. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. This is. I say the forum is just a consultee. Much as
I'm minded to think that Councillor Cross's idea is a lot simpler because it's going to be certainly cheaper.
I'll forward a copy of my proposal to either Vicky or Stuart, and then they can.
Yep, please.
Everybody.
Yeah. All right. Let's do that then. Has anyone else got any further comments?
No.
Doesn't look like it. Okay. Do you want to move on to the next one, Stuart?
Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. Next on the list is, where am I? Proposed diversion at okay. The proposed diversion at D85 is a long-running problem. How long has this been going on for now? Probably a decade. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Ranksborough Hall, Ranksborough Park. Heard of it, the static caravan holiday lodge. I'm not sure what the correct description is. There's an area of that called Brocklehurst Park. When they first started developing Brocklehurst Park, because prior to that it was just pasture, grazing land. And the first we heard about the development was when we turned up to find heavy plant stripping the site of soil. No discussion of a diversion. We told them they needed to cease works immediately and engage with the council about what they wanted to do with the footpath that crossed right through the middle of their site. They made an application to divert. There was some negotiation. A route was agreed in principle. And this was so more than a decade ago. Because then then 2008 occurred. The economy went south. All of a sudden, the landowner development on Brocklehurst Park halted. The landowner refused to engage with us, just didn't answer calls. I think by 2012, I wrote to them with an ultimatum that either they got in contact, started paying for the work that had been undertaken to date on the diversion, or we would just abandon the order. No response, the order was abandoned. Some years later, when things, the finances in the UK were starting to look better. The development of Brocklehurst Park resumed. The owner of the park, for some reason, probably, well, I wouldn't believe a word he said, to be perfectly honest, assumed that the diversion had all gone through fine, despite the letters saying that we would abandon it, etc., 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 and started putting static caravans directly over the line of the footpath. We obviously, when we became aware of this, we raised this with the owners and the unfortunate purchasers of the units that were affected by the footpath. All very surprised, can't understand. You know, there's a footpath around the edge, why can't you use that? They put in a new application to divert. The problem is they've already established a route around the edge that wasn't really quite suitable, but they didn't want to accept that. It's a little bit too narrow. It's sort of a narrow corridor between hedges with a ditch on one side. We're now in a situation where we've made an order, but the conditions of the order, that the path needs to be such and such wide, it needs to have a stone surface, etc., haven't been complied with. So we've made an order, it hasn't been confirmed, and we're kind of stuck in this limbo at the moment because since then the site has changed hands probably twice. So we're talking with new owners or new managers constantly, and the whole situation is just in limbo currently. They haven't done any work to improve the proposed diversion, to bring it up to the standard that was required for us to confirm the order, and seem unwilling to do so. If we want to reinstate the definitive line, we're going to have to shift a couple of static caravans. So we're in a, you know, it's not a great position, but it's a position made entirely of the landowners' intransigence, failure to engage with the council, and willingness to actually undertake the works that are required.
Can people actually walk there?
People can walk around the proposed diversion route. Yes.
I walked round the diversion route yesterday, and I can confirm that it's less than satisfactory.
Yeah.
As a matter of interest, it's related a little bit to my DMMO application. That I have found one elderly gentleman in Langham who actually used D85 as a bridle path and witnessed other people using it as a bridle path. And his memory of the point of access was the end of Ranksborough Drive. And they presumably, from the point at which the footpath should leave Ranksborough Drive, then followed, you know, the line of D85.
You're skipping ahead, Rosemary. We'll get to the
Okay,
application in the next section.
right.
So what powers of enforcement have we got then?
Oh,
Very, very rare.
okay. If a decision is made that the order definitely won't be confirmed because the landowner is unwilling to undertake the work to bring it up to standard, we can serve notice and have anything that's obstructing the definitive line removed. It's just, you know, there's at least one person who's incorporated part of the footpath into the plot around their static caravan.
What, with fencing, presumably?
Yep. This is the guy that came out when I was trying to survey and gave me the "who are you, what are you doing" speech. And I explained it to him and he was very upset, and he said he was assured by the owners that the footpath situation had all been dealt with. And I had to apologise, but say that was definitely not the case.
Well, I mean, should we give them a final warning then?
It's been, yeah, I mean, this is something I've got to pick up again, because last I heard, it was a new owners. The site had been sold. The original owners, and I'm not sure whether they may still own part of the site, are well known to the authority for various issues, environmental health, planning, And if you sit on any of those committees, you will probably be familiar with the name if it comes up. I'm not sure whether they've sold the whole site or whether just they've sold this particular part of the site. I met with the last site manager. I think they've had another new site manager since then, a woman who wrote to me at one point asking me for a copy of the relevant part of extract the definitive map so she could see where the footpaths were. I haven't heard from her since.
So has anyone else got any comments on this? Because we're not actually getting anywhere at the minute.
It's going to be an unpalatable decision either way because it's the affected residents. But
William,
At the end of the day, the particular owner of that caravan that Stuart had a confrontation with, it was up to his solicitors to do a search to find out exactly what was the matter.
Yep.
And therefore, I think just carry on, serve whatever is required, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, due diligence. Yeah.
they should sue their legal advisors.
Yeah.
For negligence. Yeah.
So we're on the side of put up or shut up, basically. Either do the work that's required for us to confirm the order, or we're going to be enforcing the definitive line. And
well, I think so. Otherwise, it's just look, they've got away with it, so will we, and it'll just balloon.
If we've got the political backing, that's fine.
Yep.
I will speak to legal.
Okay. Right. Next, Stuart.
Okay. Next is the Town and Country Planning application, Clypton Quarry. Clypton Quarry is another long-running issue. Because we're taking far too much time with this, I'm going to try and speed it now.
Yeah.
There was a temporary diversion made for a bridleway that crossed through the centre of Clypton Quarry back in 1997. It was from memory, a 7-year or 10-year temporary diversion. Can't remember off the top of my head. Either way. 93 it was made. The temporary diversion expired, but no one noticed. I think the issue with that was it was around the time Rutland became a unitary authority again, returned from Leicestershire. So it just kind of passed by without anybody noticing. Over a decade then passed pretty much without anyone picking it up. And so legally the bridleway runs through the middle of the quarry, straight down the vertical face of whatever it is, 20 feet and up the other side. The quarry company didn't make any moves to sort this out. And it was only when I was reading through old files that this became obvious. I asked the quarry company to resolve the matter. I tried to use as a stick to beat them with their application for an extension to the quarry, maybe a decade ago. They tried to separate the issues entirely, and I had to concede that I couldn't maintain an objection to the planning application solely on the fact that they'd allowed this situation to go unresolved. But I bear grudges like that. So when they correctly called me out on that, I've not been easy on them with this application. They have, I'm not sure any of you on planning licensing, because they were ran the latest extension for the quarry at Clypton a year or so ago, and then the section 106 took a little while to resolve. I wasn't entirely happy with the section 106, despite numerous conversations with the 106 officer. They are applying to make the temporary diversion permanent. The temporary diversion comes down some ramps that are constructed out of quarry fines to the quarry floor, and then up another ramp constructed out of quarry fines on the far side of the quarry. One of these ramps is a notifiable tip, i.e. it's considered to be relatively unstable and requires regular monitoring. That concerned me greatly if we're going to move a bridleway there permanently. The section 106, part of their section 106, they have to have a technical assessment of this ramp every, I think it's 2 years. What I was pushing for is, before the diversion takes place, to have an independent assessment of the ramp with a geotechnical assessment, with a proposal for a permanent, or at least long enough that all of us will have found something else to do by the time it goes wrong, solution to the ramps, i.e. the reason I say this is, over the years, very heavy rainfall, we've had problems with the ramps. Because they're built out of quarry fine material, it washes out. They're very steep ramps as well. And you get big sort of crevices, cracks appearing in them. Whilst the quarry company are operating, they just go up with their machinery, sort it all out. Now, a permanent diversion, obviously, that's not going to be the situation. Once they've left the site, they're not going to come back to maintain it. That's why I was a little bit sort of nervous about it. But at the end of the day, planners have agreed that we should do the diversion, and that prior to ceasing operations, the quarry company will undertake this geotechnical assessment and do remedial work on the ramp. To me, that wasn't entirely satisfactory. But that's what's been agreed. And that's kind of, to some extent, dictated the way in which I've got to approach the diversion application. Well, I mean, I say that, no, I mean, the diversion and the planning application are two different matters. We could just refuse to make the diversion because we're not happy with it. The problem is there's a great big quarry over the existing route. What can you do? So again, it's now a case of trying to secure the best possible deal from them based on what what we're stuck with. I think we had various issues over the width because they were offering the bare minimum they could get away with. I think 4 metre width from memory, Rosemary, which I think I've now gotten to.
I thought that you had agreed 5 metres with them.
Yes, we have now. After much pushing, they've agreed to a 5 metre width.
Is this the diversion that takes it beside Pickworth Wood?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The issue I've got now is that there's a few issues. There's a badger set on part of the route, which once it's fully enclosed is a big issue because we're very restricted on what we can do in the vicinity of badger sets. So I'd want the quarry company to have that situation resolved prior to the diversion going in. Obviously, they want to fence it all off and create a bund all the way alongside it. The section down the side of Pickworth Great Wood is waterlogged for 2 months of the year, generally through the winter months. It's bizarre, actually, how wet it is. I mean, I've been told this by locals, but I had to experience this myself on the bike, and it is horrible. So, unfortunately, that really needs a stone surface putting down and some drainage, even if it's just profiling the surface and a ditch. But these are all additional works.
But they've got the machinery to do it because they're a quarrying company. So why can't they do it?
Absolutely. But when we had a slight issue with the existing route on the other side and we asked them to put some stone down on it, they did. But it wasn't a very good job. They just put some loose stone down on the surface, which is completely unsuitable for a bridleway.
Brilliant.
Right. Surely this is a matter for the planning department. If they have not followed the conditions of their planning permission, Stuart, you shouldn't be worried about it. Let's get the planning department on it.
The planners have signed everything off. The Section 106 has been agreed now. We are left with what we're left with.
This is totally unacceptable. A bloody disgrace, I'm afraid. And
I argued a bit, so did the local, some of the local consultees. But
did we not put some stipulations in there about the surface of this track?
We can still do that in the diversion application. We can say that we will only make the diversion subject to these conditions. The problem is our leverage is significantly reduced now because they've got the planning permission for the quarry extension and they're currently implementing that permission.
So they'll say, presumably, or when they leave, that the responsibility for these ramps, which appears to be quite problematic, is going to then fall onto us. And we'll have
it will fall onto us the second we confirm the diversion.
Right.
We're responsible for the surface.
Well,
I see.
Okay, well, I think it's up to those of us on the planning committee to raise this because this is not acceptable.
Well, this is why at the moment our leverage, such that it is entirely that we have to condition the diversion. The problem is the quarry company are not sufficiently motivated now to meet our demands, for want of a better word, because they've got their extension. They're currently stripping the soil off the area of the extension, ready for quarrying. That is still where the driveway runs. But
do you want to make a note of that, William, so we can bring it up at the next planning?
I'm going to ping a message to probably to Justin right now.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Excuse me, does this coincide with Roger Linford's input about lack of consultation. In this case, there was consultation, but it seems that that it wasn't taken any notice of.
No, you got consulted late. The Section 106 agreement had pretty much been signed up by the time. Yeah, this is another one where, yeah, you were missed, I think.
Well, that again is unacceptable, isn't it?
I'm not sure what's happened with planning, but yesterday, sorry, Rosemary, because of the Woolfox one where you said we haven't been consulted, someone from planning got in touch and asked me if I could send them a mapping layer for bridle weights, which I did. But the fact is they should have already had that.
Oh, look. Oh, for goodness, where's my mute button? This is absolutely, you know, it drives me up the wall. Here we have Rutland County Council, one council. The bloody hell it is. Nobody talks to anybody. And the times I've been down there, say, for goodness sake, pick up the telephone. You've got maps and goodness knows what else. My godfathers, dear oh dear. Sorry about that.
All right, thank you, William.
Is a changeover in systems in planning.
Right.
Everything was
Okay.
working.
Well, we're going to bring it up at the next planning meeting anyway.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
What else have
Yeah.
we got on that, Stuart? Is that it?
Taking far too much time. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, one sec. That is, oh no, sorry. Okay. There's an application for a couple of bridleway diversion being promoted by Rosemary and friends. That's all fine, it's great, it benefits everybody, landowners in agreement. Won't say anything about that because that's just a case of making the orders now. There's another application, last one on our books, for diversion at Seaton Mill, the footpath that it currently goes down. It currently goes down their driveway and then around the mill pond, the bridge. They want to move it away from the driveway.
I imagine it's a privacy issue, isn't it? Because it's a very big house.
It's a very nice house, yes. It did run, I mean, prior to 1976, it ran all the way down the driveway, then right through their garden and in a straight line. It was diverted in 76 to run down the driveway, but then divert around the mill pond and around the house, take a little bit further away, but now the new purchaser wants to move it even further away. This is another one that's, it is in the landowner's benefit. He will have to justify to us where the public benefit is coming from for it to be considered. At the moment, I think the most he can do is say, I'll make it a bit wider.
Well, let's see what he says then.
Yeah, whether that's deemed sufficient, well, obviously the forum can take a view on that. And
all right.
That is it for our public path orders. For our definitive map modification orders, only one. This is the one Rosemary referred to earlier. It is the troublesome one at Langham that we have. I think I've mentioned it previously. There's an application by the British Horse Society to add a bridleway to that, mostly following the route of an existing footpath, but not completely. The council brought in a consultant to look at the evidence. The consultant concluded that the evidence wasn't sufficient to make an order. The applicant appealed. The planning inspectorate directed us to make the order on the basis that a reasonable allegation had been made. We made the order. 12 months later, the planning inspectorate told us we had, what was the first problem? There was a minor issue with the order. Returned it to us, told us to remake it. We remade it. A further 18 months passed, and the planning inspectorate again returned the order to us saying that there was a date wrong in it. The reason the date was wrong is because we hadn't changed it from the time we were first told to remake it. So we've now got it back again to remake again, assuming I have actually taken issue with the planning inspectorate because I believe that the date issue is so minor that it's within the powers of modification. There's no consultee would have been prejudiced by this error. Most people don't even know what the relevant date means. They haven't responded to my email on that yet. But we're now in a position whereby otherwise we just have to remake the order for the third time, the order we were directed by the planning inspector to make, and submit it to them again for the third time. The complications on this is that part of the land crossed by the route that's been applied for is subject to a preliminary planning application for 18 houses. And we can't really allow that development to proceed without, well, we could. It would be a huge risk on the part of the developer. because if the order was confirmed, we'd have to add a bridleway across the route. If they'd already constructed on it, they would have to either agree a suitable diversion with all the interested parties or remove whatever they'd built on the route. So that'd be a huge risk on their part. But that, yeah. And that is it for legal.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
To the meeting.
Oh, you wanted to say something, Miranda?
No, that was very
Okay.
lightning.
Yeah, training. Stuart, that's you as well.
Okay, yes, sorry. As for those of you that were, I can use the term older forum members, but you know what I mean, were members of the South Lincolnshire Rutland Access Forum prior to the formation. You may be aware that from time to time we arrange some training for forum members. If you feel there's a particular area of rights of way law and practice or legislation that you're unfamiliar with, that you don't feel you know enough about to be able to make informed decisions or comments on, please let us know. And if there's enough interest, we can either arrange something, either I can try and put something together, or we can bring in, like we did with disability access in the past, we brought in a trainer from the Fieldfare Trust to do a day's training. I did, and I believe Vicky forwarded you all details of the free training that was being offered by, I forgot what they're called, Six Pump Court, legal chambers. I didn't make the one that was on a couple of days ago. I don't know whether anybody did. I know a couple of rights of way colleagues who attended the one prior to this who did actually say it was quite good. Lawyers normally have a slightly different take on these matters to rights of way professionals because they make a living out of arguing over the fine print. And right, sorry, Andrew, again, I appreciate.
Can you recirculate the date of the next one, Vicky?
Yeah, there is one more still to run. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll send out a reminder for that.
Okay. All right.
So yeah,
So
just
if we
as
want any training, then
yeah, just a point of interest. Yes, if there's any training needs that forum members feel should be urgently addressed, if you can sort of let Vicky know.
Yeah.
And we'll start putting together a list. And if there's enough interest in any particular area, then we can try and arrange something.
okay. Thank you, Stuart. Right. Item 6 is item 5. Miles without styles, which is over to you, John, I believe.
Thanks very much. Yes, this really follows on from our last meeting that I wasn't there, but we spoke about kitting gates and replacing styles with kitting gates. And it's important that we don't only replace the styles with kitting and make routes become style free rather than odd styles be removed and gates in their place. And this makes obviously the countryside and roads more accessible to all. So what I would like to see is the forum be able to understand more where the styles and gates are on the pros, prioritise the routes which will be more beneficial to existing and potential users, so that we can get them style free. Create a process to include dialogue with landowners to encourage landowners to swap the styles for kitting gates, and examine bridleways which link up to footpaths to see if those landowners would consider larger corral areas, so that all-terrain mobility scooters can use them. And preferably, because there'd be a lot of work involved, is create a subgroup to gather the information and provide recommendations to the lab.
So are you looking at sort of working out which ones are best used and concentrating on that sort of thing? Because obviously you want best value for money, don't you?
That's right. The most beneficial, and probably involve, as well as the disabled ramblers, but also the Rutland ramblers. through John and his the person that's taken over from John.
So are you saying you want to form a subgroup, John?
Yes, please.
Would you like to chair that subgroup? That sounds like you've already volunteered.
Well, it doesn't sound like anyone else is jumping out. Yes, I'm quite happy chairing that, if that's okay with the
Well,
rest of the
would you,
board.
can we put a thing out, Vicky, then asking people to help John in his aspiration?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
All right. Now, is that all on that one, John?
Yes,
And number 6, then, a safer countryside for livestock and public rights of way users. So
Yes.
you again, John.
Yeah, it's a bit longer, I'm afraid. But first of all, I was looking at dogs on lead, which we were also speaking about last time, and also spraying in the countryside. So firstly, as you spoke about the dogs on lead and the issues with sheep and other livestock, I was wondering whether probably the best thing would be for us to actually advise Section 94 bodies on what we'd like to see. So my thoughts are that any person with a dog should have it on lead or a short lead when they actually walk through a field with livestock. Now there's certain ways we can actually do that, but I really need somebody else to say that this is what you would want as a forum.
But that's not a legal requirement, is it? Because it's under,
right.
under control.
Yeah, that's right. It's currently not as a legal requirement, but we can advise various Section 94 bodies like DEFRA to say that we feel that this should be a legal requirement for those that actually walk through a field where we've got livestock, and how we actually approach the walkers so they know what fields have got livestock in. We can look into that detail, but initially I think I need the backing of the forum to take that forward. This,
Hang on a minute, John Williams got his hand up.
Thank you, Andrew. This is all covered in the Countryside Code, and
it's just a code, though, isn't it?
I know it's a code, but the code is there not only for the walker's safety, but also for the safety of livestock as well. And even if you litigate, people will remain ignorant of what the requirements are. I think probably a little more advertising at the right time of the year might help. But then when you talk about dogs on leads with livestock, yeah, that's very necessary. However, you know, if there's cows and calves in a field, the first thing you want to do is let your dog off the lead before they come at you. And so it's up to people to understand when they're walking in the countryside, they're not walking in a park. They're walking through an area with big animals in it, and they've got to be careful, and they should also carry a stick as well. So that's my take on it.
It's not a theme park, is it? I mean, that's the thing, and it's an education issue. Stuart, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I mean, I'm not sure what John's thoughts were or what he had in mind when sort of adding this to the agenda. I mean, in terms of advising DEFRA as a Section 94 body, I would think perhaps the correct channel would be for this forum to advise the English Access Forum, the national forum, and for them to take it DEFRA potentially. John,
we haven't got an English Access Forum, have we?
Have we not got currently? Okay, because you used to attend on behalf of the Southlinks Forum, didn't you, on occasions?
That was the East Midlands one.
Oh, sorry, East Midlands. And did the East Midlands not report to the National Forum?
No, because there was no National Forum.
No, okay. Sorry, well, in which case, I'll take that back. Maybe the Regional Access Forum should potentially advise DEFRA, and we feed into the Regional Access Forum. If that's still the arrangement, I don't know. But otherwise, and building on what William says in terms of perhaps there should be more promotion. But exactly, who is it do we think that should be doing this promotion? Should this be Rutland promoting the countryside code, or should DEFRA be promoting the countryside code? The last iteration of the countryside code was promoted very well by DEFRA. They brought in Aardman Animations, the guys who do what's the stock
Wallace and Gromit.
Exactly. They provided us with a ridiculous amount of promotional material, both electronic and physical. This time, nothing. They've updated the website. It's not promoted in any way further than that. So I can take it. I see exactly what you're saying in that sense, where there is no promotion. I mean, if you don't go to the DEFRA website, would you be aware that the countryside code had been updated?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the way to promote it is in schools, isn't it? Because they're the people that are going to grow up and walk about in the countryside. And it's the same with the issue of food production and everything to do with farming. It's
absolutely. But again, at the moment, what could you provide schools?
Yeah,
there's no promotional material being produced by DEFRA.
I believe the CLA is presently promoting safe countryside access. And taking on board what William said about what one should do in the vicinity of cows with calves, maybe we could forward that suggestion to be included.
The only thing I'm thinking of is it's good that schools, it's good that we're educating children at school, but you can see people flouting the countryside code at any age, well past school age. And even myself, going back a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I found a chap it wasn't on the public rights of way, with 2 dogs, with sheep in the field, and he wasn't a farmer, I may add. And he was definitely not going to keep his dogs under control for any reason at all. And I think if you had the law behind you, or farmer with a shotgun behind you, then you would make a lot of people more aware of what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing.
If you want to change the law, John, you'd have to write to the MP.
Well, yeah, but we can do that by advising different organisations such as DEFRA, such as Natural England, and such as MP. I would imagine they could be included rather than asking individuals to do.
I mean, there's only so much you can do on this issue, isn't there? So, I mean,
well, there's the other thing that, and you'll have to tell me if I'm right or wrong on this one, Stuart. The 1988 Road Traffic Act, Section 27, which enables local authorities to make it legal for dogs to be kept on leads on specific paths.
So, sure, yeah.
Yeah, there are orders we can make to yes, to limit the public's rights in terms of that. Yes, you can make it a requirement to be kept on a lead.
This sounds like a legal minefield, because if someone's just going to say, "Oh, I dropped the lead and it got away," or it slipped its collar and it got away,
it's enforcement. We could never enforce anyway. The police couldn't enforce. So there is the question of what the value of legislation that is unenforceable.
Okay.
I think it's just sort of carrying on, chipping away at the edges, trying to educate people. I don't know what else you can do, really.
Okay, I'm happy to leave it there then if you feel that we can't do any more on it.
Okay, thanks, John. Item 7, update on the improvement of access along the old Oakland Canal. I'm afraid
Sorry. What I should have said is there's two aspects. One was dogs on lead, the other one was on spraying.
Oh, spraying. All right, go on then.
Yeah. So we've currently got a code of practice used for protection of for spraying in actual fact, but I think we need something better for walkers and horse riders in terms of when they're actually on a walk or when they're actually riding, they suddenly come to a field that's being sprayed. And what we could do is inform people so they have that information prior to. It's a choice for them to decide whether it's suitable for them to go through, follow that route, to go on that walk or not.
But it's good practice to put a sign up saying spraying in progress if you are spraying where there's a footpath.
Yeah, that's fine when you've walked, I don't know, 5 miles and then you come across this sign. And most people, I would hope, wouldn't go into that field if there was spraying available, spraying actually done. But if we could forewarn people so that they knew that spraying was going to, or maybe.
I mean, that's going to be very difficult because, I mean, because I do a lot of spraying, and you know, you're at the behest of the wind and the weather and lots of other factors. So you might have to do it at short notice.
Could I just come in and say that with dogs and things, I'm afraid I'm not walking anything like as much as I used to, but I do see the Ramblers walks advertised, and what I do notice is that the person who goes and has to, because it's now a Ramblers rule that the person leading must go and do a circuit and look at it reasonably close up to when the walk's going to be taken, and they come back and they'll say there were cattle or sheep on this walk, and therefore please do not bring your dog. Particularly at the time of year when you've got calves and cattle together, when they're much more dangerous, being protective of the young. And it is becoming, with at least Rutland Ramblers and also Stamford Ramblers who mix with them, that as far as they're concerned, a dog can be on a lead, but not if the person, not even come if the person leading the walk has found that there are a significant number of animals on the walk. And perhaps that shows that the walkers of some sort are looking at that, and it's not the place to take your dog for exercise. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, John. It was good to hear that some people are being slightly more responsible about taking dogs through livestock.
What I shall do then, if it's okay with you, is that I'll leave the spraying one and I'll put it to the next meeting, and I'll, as I hope to do this time, give you a paper so that the forum can have a look at it and take views on it and discuss it at the next meeting.
As far as I'm aware, there are rules, cross-compliance rules on spraying across footpaths and near to footpaths.
Cross-compliance will no longer be relevant, though, Andrew. They were European.
Well, I know, but no doubt they'll bring it in some much more onerous, red tape laden.
Well, you are an optimist, because DEFRA have been struggling with the deregulation act for, is it 3 or 4 years now? They've been failing to pass this legislation.
Don't get me started.
So
okay, right.
Would it be best then if I put this to the next meeting and I'll document it, and you can
good idea, and then we'll have all the information we need.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, John. Number 7, the update on the Oakland Canal. Well, Paul Dadford is not here, and I think Vicky said he was going to provide us with a written update.
He will be, yes.
So that's going to forward the meeting a bit.
I can give you a very quick verbal update if you'd like, Andrew.
Yeah, all right, is that what we want? Yeah, go on. Okay. Councillor Jones is nodding.
Okay. We've issued works instructions to LCC Structures to undertake a measured survey and some design work for the old section of the canal within Oakland that is currently owned, managed by Persimmon, with a view to bringing it up to a standard whereby we would adopt it. At the northern end, close to the to OEP, where the Langham Road crosses, the Paul Dadford had the army construct a set of temporary steps to replace the old stone ones that were all uneven and pushed up by tree roots so that we could assess the stone steps. After assessing the stone steps, we've decided there is no way they can be reasonably brought up to a modern standard. What we're going to do is slightly improve the temporary steps to make them permanent because they're going to remain in situ, barrier off the stone steps for the time being and leave them as a heritage feature and see if there's any reaction to this. Longer term, then we will probably remove the stone steps entirely, retaining that stone, the nice stone for use elsewhere. I think the problem is when we started taking them up, they're a weird mixture of nice old building stone and the occasional piece of precast concrete rubbish with rebar stuck in it. We would either have to buy in new stone to supplement what we've got there, chop out the tree roots. It would have been a big job to repair or to put back, looking as it does now, what's there. And the temporary steps the army have put in are actually really very good. But that's the status of the moment. So yeah, my only slight issue is if someone's going to take real issue with, oh, why have you buried off those lovely old stone steps? Because they're uneven and they're a liability, frankly, is the short answer.
Well, let's wait and see if that happens then.
Exactly.
William?
All right, on that matter, why don't we just put a little notice up explaining what's going on by the steps? Very simple. And Stuart, you can put your mobile number on it.
I'll tell them to come to the forum. I don't think there'll be a problem, but again, I don't like to assume because people are funny.
Never assume anything, Stuart.
Exactly.
No, definitely not. Right. Thank you, Stuart. Any urgent business? I think, John, you sent something into Vicky, but I mean, we can't have, once the pack's been sent out, we can't just shove things in. So that those things will have to be put into the next, next meeting. Yeah, Vicky,
well, these were specific on how we hold our meetings.
Oh, well, I was going to say something about that as well.
All right. Do you want me to go first? And
go on then.
Yeah. So what we normally have, or what we used to have, as when we were a joint forum, were actions arising from the minutes, if not on the agenda, and hence I said, or it was noted in the last minutes that I would update you on the Choice Unlimited event. Choice Unlimited event was going to be a virtual event, but because people would prefer it as a live event, it has got to go back and have a look, raise more money, whether we can get one for next year.
So we can have actions or from the meeting. Vicky can do that, can't she?
Yes, I can add that.
The other point was declaration of interest. We would normally have that as the next.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, we should have that, shouldn't we?
Okay.
Yeah, we ought to have that. So, Rosemary, did you have your hand up? Oh, you did. It's up and down.
There's no use declaring.
Urgent business. Roger Linford did want to put something in on the agenda regarding lack of consultation by the planning department. Has that been dealt with in our earlier conversation?
I don't think so. Can we put
that was to be put on the next agenda?
Yeah.
He'd sent an email about that for it to be submitted next time.
So we'll put that on the next one.
Ah, right.
Because Councillor Jones was interested in asked whether the meeting could be in the evening because she has to take time off work. And Stuart's looking very animated and shouting. I don't know if he's saying it to us or someone else. I don't know.
Sorry, people are rearranging the office around me.
Okay. But I spoke to governance and the monitoring officer, and he said it's a resource issue. and staff timing issue as to why it's at 2 o'clock rather than at, say, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's a lot of evening meetings.
Yeah. So that was what he said. Rosemary, you've still got your hand up.
All right, Alan.
Take
Okay.
it down. So is anyone else? Is that
Just one last one.
Where-
if that's
oh, yes.
okay. What was the outcome of the budget, or the cuts in the budget for public rights of way that you discussed at the last meeting?
Andrew, if you, yeah.
yes, do it. Yeah, go on.
Okay. There's essentially been a cut of 60,000 for the rights of way budget. The 32,000 that's remaining is revenue. But we are able to bid for capital funds for projects from the integrated transport block. We have, and the question mark was how easy that was going to be and how accessible that money was going to be for us, because schemes are scored and prioritised and we have to compete against safety schemes, etc. So there was the concern was that rights of way schemes would never get taken forward because they're going to score much lower than competing schemes. How it's working so far is that where a scheme is considered essential, i.e. a bridge has collapsed, we need a new bridge, we can get the money fairly easily. That's not an issue. What we're not seemingly going to be able to do in the immediately foreseeable future is this. Let's say there's a drainage problem, the surface is waterlogged during the winter months. We want to put in a drainage scheme and stone the surface of bridleway X in parish Y. That's seen as a nicety and improvement, not necessarily essential, and that's unlikely to get the funding. Where it's a strict, we have a statutory duty, must do this. It seems so far that we're able to get the funds we need to do it. We've had some small bridges go down, and yes, depending on the value of the scheme as well, it doesn't necessarily even need to go to the Highways and Transport Working Group. If it's under £10,000, it can just be signed off by the head of highways. Above that, it needs to go through a democratic process of being discussed in circles by people for months before.
William, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Andrew. No, it's only on the meetings times in the old days, for the older members. In the dark evenings, I believe we used to have the meetings in the daytime because we old people don't like to travel in the dark. And in the summertime, well, we had them in the evening. But because we're not traveling to Skegness and what have you, I don't think that applies now.
Could we time them to the full moon?
Just a little bit of history there for you, for the newcomers.
Well, thank you, Councillor Cross. I said we could time them to the full moon, so that, and then as long as it wasn't cloudy. Right, thank you, everybody. The date of the next meeting is Wednesday, the 9th of March, 2022, 2 p.m. Is that right, Vicky? That's what we've got.
Correct.
Here.
Yes, that is right.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for your attendance. The meeting is finished at 8 minutes past 3. I had to work that out then because it's on the 24-hour clock here.
Oh.
But a bit like Captain
Andrew.
trying to work out.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Vicky.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.